Chapter 4. That night, Luo Zheng was so excited that he couldn't sleep. He only slept for 2 hours, but he was still full of energy. Early the next morning, the Luo family's servants opened the cellar's lock, put on the leather armor and shackles on Luo Zheng, and took him out. After entering the bone refining stage, his body had undergone a qualitative change. This change was hard to describe. Even small things like walking had changed. Every step he took was easier, more coordinated, and more effortless. If it weren't for these damned shackles restraining him, he would have wanted to run forward. Under the guidance of the servants, Luo Zheng found that there was something wrong with this road. The entire Luo family occupied a large area, but the family's planning was in order. Except for the martial arts hall, the discussion pavilion, the herb garden, and the weapon refining workshop, which were shared by the family, were basically planned in the front yard of the residence. But now, this road took a detour, and seemed to be going to the backyard of the Luo family. Luo Zheng's brows slightly wrinkled. He didn't say anything, and just waited and watched. He hadn't been to the backyard of the Luo family for a long time. The appearance of this place had changed a lot, especially the residents of the second and third branches of the Luo family. There were many pavilions, terraces, and pavilions. They also opened up several ponds, built small bridges over flowing water, and built water pavilions. The workmanship of these buildings was so exquisite that it made people gasp in amazement. The carved beams and painted rafters, the patterns of dragons and phoenixes, were all painted with gold, and the roofs were installed with shining gems. Seeing the actions of the second and third branches, Luo Zheng couldn't help but sigh. Although the Luo family had a rich heritage, and this amount of money was nothing, in today's world, only the strong could survive. For a martial artist, glory, splendor, wealth, and rank were only trivial. If a family was content to enjoy life, this Luo family would most likely be defeated by the hands of his second and third uncles. After passing by a pond, Luo Zheng turned into another courtyard. In this courtyard, there were 2 people sitting opposite each other, drinking tea. They were very happy. Luo Zheng took a closer look. One of them was Steward Fang, who had disappeared for 2 days. The other person was an old man over 50 years old, dressed in silk and satin. Luo Zheng also knew this old man. His name was Huang Gu, and he was originally a servant of the Luo residence. Because Huang Ji's wife was the wet nurse of his third uncle's eldest son, Luo Chengyun, coupled with the fact that Huang Gu was very good at flattering and studying relationships, he had a very good relationship with the third branch of the Luo family, and his status was rising steadily. Now that second uncle and third uncle had taken control of the Luo clan, Huang Ji's status had risen even more. He had become the head steward of the Luo clan, and even the branch descendants of the Luo clan were nothing in his eyes. Luo Zheng had long heard about his arrogance. Luo Zheng hadn't even walked in when he heard Steward Fang say to Huang Gu, "Lord Huang, the courtyard that young Master Chengyun bestowed upon you is truly a work of fine quality. If I'm not mistaken, the jade dragon carved on the door plaque is made from the finest corundum seed material, correct?" Huang Gu laughed mischievously and said, "You really know your stuff. It's not just the jade dragon. Look at the glazed roof tiles and that copper lion. They were all made by the best craftsmen in Chongyang County." After Steward Fang appraised them one by one, he clicked his tongue and said, "Elder Huang, everything about your small courtyard is good, but it's lacking something. My courtyard has everything it wants. What could it possibly lack?" Huang Gu said proudly. Steward Fang giggled, "Of course, you're lacking a nimble servant who can take care of your daily needs. See, I've brought this person here for you. With this person as your servant, I guarantee that you'll have a lot of face." "Who is this person?" Huang Gu asked curiously. Steward Fang pointed to the entrance of the courtyard and said, "Elder Huang, look." Huang Gu followed Steward Fang's finger and saw Luo Zheng at a glance. How could he not recognize the former famous young master of the Luo family? Luo Zheng stood at the entrance of the courtyard. He had heard Steward Fang and Huang Ji's words without the slightest error. A burst of anger rose in his heart. These two dog slaves had such big words and were too impudent. Although he, Luo Zheng, had been demoted to a servant, this was his Luo family's matter. Even ordinary branch family descendants didn't dare to be too unreasonable in front of him. After all, Luo Zheng's status in the past was still there, and he was the eldest son of the eldest branch. That Steward Fang actually dared to instigate Huang Gu and order him around like a servant who served tea and poured water. Huang Gu sized up Luo Zheng with his eyes, and a sinister smile floated on his wrinkled old face. Asking this kid to take care of my food and daily life is quite appropriate. I just don't know if young Master Chengyun will have any opinions. Don't worry, Elder Huang. You are the head steward of our Luo family. With just a casual word, you can transfer Luo Zheng from the martial arts hall here. This Luo Zheng is now nothing more than a servant without any status. Every day, he has to be sent to the martial arts hall to be beaten until he wails like ghosts and howls like wolves. How comfortable would it be to be a servant here? At most, he would just have to pour a basin of feces and urine. Steward Fang continued. Steward Fang's words moved Huang Gu. For someone like Huang Gu who had climbed up from the bottom, what he valued the most was face. The former young master of the Luo family had to personally pour a chamber pot for him. This was indeed an interesting matter. Huang Gu nodded and asked Steward Fang, "How about we do it this way?" "Let's do it this way." After Steward Fang nodded, he stood up and called several servants to bring Luo Zheng in. However, Luo Zheng stood in the same place, motionless. No matter how the servants dragged him, he didn't move an inch. Although these servants had some strength, how could they move Luo Zheng who was in the bone-refining stage? Luo Zheng's feet were like wedges that had been hit by heavy hammers, deeply nailed to the ground. The servants exerted all their strength, sweating profusely and gasping for breath. "Luo Zheng, I'm giving you a chance to serve Master Huang. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit," Steward Fang said with a flick of his sleeve. At this moment, Luo Zheng's eyes flashed with an ominous glint, and he roared. After entering the bone-refining stage, the contraction of the ribs in his chest was even stronger. This roar was like a thunderclap, shaking the ears of the servants and Huang Gu. It was very uncomfortable. "Huang Gu, Fang Tsong. Even if my second uncle, Luo Bingquan, was here, he wouldn't dare to ask me to serve him. You two lowly servants with different surnames are actually so arrogant. I don't know who gave you the courage to talk nonsense as if there was no one around. You want me to serve you?" Luo Zheng's aura surged toward Steward Fang, instantly scaring Steward Fang until he retreated a few steps back and hid behind Huang Gu. Steward Fang deliberately brought Luo Zheng here today to let Huang Gu deal with Luo Zheng. Now that he saw Luo Zheng's agitated appearance, he knew that this matter was already half done. Steward Huang Gu climbed up step by step from a servant, and he hated it when people called him lowly. This time, Luo Zheng was afraid that he wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. Hearing Luo Zheng's words, Huang Gu didn't move. He narrowed his eyes and said gloomily, "Luo Zheng, don't forget your current status. You're the lowest servant, not the former young master. The current young master is called Luo Peiran, not Luo Zheng. It's your honor to be called a human target to serve me." Luo Zheng shook hard, and the servants were suddenly bounced off him, falling to the ground. Seeing this scene, Huang Gu continued, "Luo Zheng, you're a sinner, don't tell me you want to rebel? According to the clan's rules, you'll be put to death by 1,000 cuts." Luo Zheng sneered and strode into the courtyard. As he walked, he laughed and said, "Clan rules? A person with a different surname dares to talk about clan rules in front of me? Today, I'll let you understand what clan rules are." After saying this, Luo Zheng raised his hand and was about to hit Huang Gu. Suddenly, a burst of popping sounds came from his bones. That was the sound of bones cracking when he used his strength to the extreme. Luo Zheng, don't you dare. If you hit me, young Master Cheng Yun definitely won't let you off. You're just a human target with no power or influence in the Luo family. Aren't you afraid of being beaten to death? Huang Ge said calmly. Slap. As soon as Huang Ji's voice fell, Luo Zheng's slap had already swept across his face. After entering the bone-refining stage, Luo Zheng's strength had almost doubled. Although this slap wasn't at full strength, it still wasn't light. Huang Ji's old face was deathly pale at first. Then, 5 fingerprints floated up, as clear as if they were imprinted on his face. Half of his face was swollen like a pig's head. Luo family's rules. Talking nonsense and criticizing others. Slap your mouth. Slap. Luo family's rules. Helping a villain do evil. Opinionated. Slap your mouth. Slap your mouth. Luo family's rules. Stirring up trouble. Inverting black and white. Slap your mouth. Slap your mouth. Luo family's rules. Slap. With each slap, a cloud of blood burst out. Steward Fong saw this scene and his whole body trembled. This was a little different from the script he had imagined. This Luo Zheng was usually treated as a human target. He didn't seem to have any temper and had a resigned look. How come he even dared to hit old Huang now? Steward Fong didn't understand that Luo Zheng had resigned himself to adversity because he didn't want to bicker with servants like them. At this time, many of the Luo family's disciples had already gathered at the door. When they saw this scene, their faces were full of surprise. At the same time, they felt relieved. This chief steward, Huang Ge, relied on his relationship with Luo Chengyun to run amok in the Luo family. It seemed that he really regarded himself as the master of the Luo family. Usually, some of the branch family's disciples had been bullied by Huang Ge. Everyone tolerated him for the sake of the second branch family's face. But this Huang Ge didn't know how to restrain himself. Because they tolerated him, it increased Huang Ji's arrogance. Today, someone jumped out and taught this guy a lesson. It was indeed satisfying. But these Luo family's disciples knew very well that an outsider had the right to be arrogant because he had a strong backing. Huang Ji's arrogance was because of his relationship with Luo Chengyun. In addition, although Huang Ge was arrogant, in front of the second and third branches, he showed his true colors as a servant to the extreme. The second and third branches liked him very much. Luo Zheng's current identity was that of a servant. Now that he had hit Huang Ge, he would be in big trouble. This Luo Zheng was definitely going to be in big trouble. Luo Zheng slapped Huang Ge dozens of times before he stopped. Huang Ji's face was badly mutilated and dripping with blood. If one didn't look carefully, one wouldn't be able to distinguish his nose and mouth. His white hair was also scattered, making him look like a ghost. After Luo Zheng stopped, Huang Ji's smashed mouth moved. He vaguely said, You wait. Before Huang Ge could finish, Luo Zheng slapped him again. Huang Ji's eyes rolled back and he fell to the ground with his head raised. After teaching Huang Ge a lesson, Luo Zheng's gaze turned toward Steward Fong again. When Steward Fong saw Luo Zheng's gaze, he couldn't help but tremble. He took 2 steps back and shouted, Luo Zheng, you're a servant. What's wrong with being a servant? Luo Zheng approached step by step. How dare you offend your superior? Steward Fong said. What's superior? What's inferior? My surname is Luo. Even if I'm a servant, my surname is still Luo. Moreover, you forgot that my fist is bigger than yours, so I'm superior. My strength is stronger than yours, so I'm superior. My kung fu is better than yours, so I'm superior. As he spoke, Luo Zheng grabbed Steward Fang. With his strength at the bone-refining stage, these servants were like obedient chickens in his hands. He grabbed Steward Fang and slapped him more than a dozen times. When other people heard the slapping sounds, they felt a burst of toothache. How painful was that? Finally, when Luo Zheng had enough, he threw Steward Fang onto Huang Ji's body. Both of them screamed. Luo Zheng said, "Today I'll teach you a lesson. You have to remember this pain. In the future, you'll be able to distinguish right from wrong. You'll understand what you can do and what you can't do." After speaking, Luo Zheng turned around and walked out of the small courtyard. As soon as he walked to the door, the Luo clan's disciples and the group of servants who were watching